Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting the discussion right away. Dr. Amir, now, the relationship between Egypt and the European Union and the European Council as well. I mean, we're focusing on it now because there is a boosting in this relationship, and we've seen President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meeting the European Council President Charles Michel, talking about many different issues. Before we start talking specifically about all the issues that were on the agenda, now, do you see any change or development or a change in the strategy or dynamics in the relationship between Egypt and the European Council?
Of course, if we compare what took place since 2013 and what is taking place now in 2021, there is a huge difference between what Europe had as a political position, sort of hostile political position towards Egypt, and now very close and very warm relationship with Egypt. I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi made this huge effort during all these years to make these relations develop. He explained so many things that they didn't understand from the beginning. Our partners in Europe saw that Egypt, when it fights terrorism, it's hindering or threatening human rights, and this was wrong. We are doing exactly as our friends in Europe are doing. We are safeguarding our sovereignty and security in accordance with the respects of the law. So I think that our friends in Europe understood that, and they understood that Egypt helped Europe in maintaining stability and bringing peace in Libya, helped Europe in fighting illegal immigration, and we are seeing these days we cannot intervene in it. Although Turkey could do something about it, they won't, because all the migrants now in Belarus heading to Poland, they went through Turkey before. But we did our role by fighting it in the Mediterranean. So this is the contrast. They're seeing who's the real ally. And we fought also terrorism by exchanging the security info, because once what so-called Arab Spring took place in the Middle East, all the states were destabilized. There were some states that just collapsed. But Europe, what they have gained, nothing but refugees and instability. So I think that now they understand that a strong country like Egypt is in their interest. It's a win-win relationship. So I think the situation is different. The scene is very clear now. Who's the ally and who's the peacemaking partner in the Middle East?
Yes. Well, starting off on the first topic, which you've pointed out, was illegal immigration. Now, since 2013, and maybe even before that, since 2011, we've seen an influx or a big movement of illegal immigration from North Africa, from the Arab countries to Europe, and we've seen migrants moving from one country to another through the borders in huge numbers. And Egypt has been really quite successful in dealing with the illegal immigration file. And we've seen Egypt meeting with many different countries, and the latest of which is the European Council, in dealing with illegal immigration. Now, you've pointed out to the illegal immigration issue that is taking now place, that includes Belarus, includes Poland, and many other European countries are involved within this issue. But what sort of experience and know-how that Egypt does possess in dealing with illegal immigration that all other countries of the international communities, and mainly now Europe, really wants to make use of Egypt's experience in this issue, and how can Egypt lend a helping hand to the European Council?
Well, we take it from the source. Unfortunately, 95% of the illegal immigrants now at the borders between Poland and Belarus, and it's very devastating. The scenes that we have seen the last hours are mostly from Iraq and Syria, meaning of that Arab countries and countries which are fighting also terrorism. So I think that Egypt can give the assessment that who is exploiting these crises. We all know that the starting point is always Turkey. We all know that these immigrants are not gathered like that by chance. These poor families, they pay thousands of dollars to criminal organizations based in Turkey, and they go into Europe, and they don't know where to go except to head to the frontiers, and then they are used as cards. So I think that Egypt gives the assessment, gives the info, who is leading these people from their own countries, which is Arab countries, which is Syria and Iraq. And I think that we are giving also the info that be aware that sometimes there are infiltrators of some terrorist elements inside these. I'm not saying all of them like that, but they infiltrate from Daesh and other parts of terrorist groups into these masses, and they go into Europe. So we are giving the sensitive info that they have to track the illegal traffickers. Who are the people doing that? Who are financing terrorism? Because let's not forget, the money goes to these criminals, and we all know that this money goes afterwards in a circle to the terrorist groups. So it finances terrorism, and then it comes to Sinai and comes to Libya, and we are the one who should pay the price for it. So we are asking our friends in Europe, we're telling them, and maybe this is the main important point of President Sisi's visits to the Visegrad part. I mean by that Poland, Hungary, Romania, Greece, because it's all going on in this region. And I think that's why Europe, Western Europe, France, England, and the UK and Germany are interested in the vision of President Sisi, because he has studied this part of Europe where these criminals are trafficking Arab citizens and taking them from their homes and pushing them into Europe and creating this dilemma or these crises with the help of the Turkish regime.
Yes. Well, the thing is about Egypt, Egypt also receives a big share of refugees from all over the world, and mainly North Africa and the countries that are facing these crises. However, Egypt has some sort of a way to receive the refugees and receive the migrants and really incorporating them within the Egyptian life and the Egyptian economy. So you don't necessarily get to see refugee camps and tents with the traditional sense of the refugees and illegal migrants that we're used to. We've seen recently at the meeting between Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and the European Minister for Home Affairs, Ylva Johansson, and they're talking about how the European countries can find some sort of a legal pathway for migrants to move from Egypt to Europe or from any other country to Europe. Do you feel that the European countries would be able to do the same as Egypt, as in getting those refugees and really incorporating them within their own internal economic and social life?
It's very difficult. Why? Because I think that the advice that Egypt is giving is very concrete. But I think that the politicians inside Europe are not willing really to take it from that side, because we all know that there is the left and the right, and the extreme right is gaining a lot of voices inside of Europe, even in a country like Switzerland, which is a biased country, which is a neutral country. The extreme right is gaining many popularity. We all know also that in Italy it's the same thing. Now there is in France, the elections will take place in April, and the main candidate in front of President Macron would be Eric Zemmour, which is he's a personality from the right people see him that he's extreme right. Well, he says clearly that there is no room for any immigration, especially the Arab Muslim immigration. He's very clear about it. So I don't think that there is a fertile ground for this to accept them. Here in Egypt, we don't have this chauvinism, this sentiment of nationalism to refuse to accept the refugees. As President Sisi said it, we have millions of refugees here in Egypt, and we don't have tents. We don't have refugee camps, not a single one, because we refuse it. This is not our tradition. They are living in apartments like every Egyptians. They have suburbs for them. They have all the treatment, and we are organizing with the UN. So I think that Europe, it's difficult now to push it. For example, 2 days ago in Warsaw, in Poland, there was a huge demonstration, anti-EU demonstration of nationalist Polish activists and militants. They even had anti-Semitic slogans at a certain time and during the rally, and the rally was huge. And everyone said they were attacking Germany because Germany is a main enemy a traditional enemy for Poland. And the second thing, there was no flags of the EU. The people had their own Polish flags, and it coincides with the next day there are these refugees. So tell me how, if these refugees will go into the territory of Poland, how the situation will be in there. Every politician will fear that he will lose the elections if he will side with the refugees.
Yes. Well, you've pointed out that during this whole refugee and illegal immigration issue, it really showed who are the real friends and foes for the European countries. Now, the Egyptian-European cooperation, one aspect of it is the political aspect. Do you feel that now, with things becoming clearer, and we're seeing even today President Sisi really talking to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and they're still talking about cooperation in all aspects. Do you feel that now the political role Egypt is playing and enjoying within the international community, and mainly as well, I mean, we were speaking last week about the Egyptian-American one, but now we're talking about the Egyptian-European one. Do you think that the balance, the political balance of play will be changing?
Of course it will be changing, because the Middle East is changing itself. We have seen now countries going stronger and countries going weaker. I think that there is this anxious situation about Iran, for example. So states like Israel, like Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states are all worried, and now they're focusing on another issue. It's Iran, and Iran is the big question for them. But when it comes to Egypt, we're not only focusing on Iran, because we are in the center of the Middle East. So we are concerned about Iran, of course, because of our brothers in the Gulf states, and our national security also in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. And we're concerned about Libya, we're concerned about Sudan, we're concerned about refugees, we're concerned about terrorism, and also Ethiopia. So we have lots of issues. And then our friends in Europe came and said, well, we have to cooperate in all these issues, because since the fall of Gaddafi, we had the problem of terrorism, we have the problem of refugees, we have the problem of the gas and supplies of the oil, and it was a mess, because the whole thing about the Arab Spring was not really studied well, so it was chaos. So I think Egypt has the burden now, and it's playing its role, showing to the West and our European friends that we are maintaining all the issues under our hands, because we have a strong political and diplomatic way of thinking. Our president is a visionary. We're not saying that because we are Egyptians, we are saying that because it's real. What he said happened. And he warned a lot about using the refugees, and we are witnessing today it's happening. So he is giving his vision. There is another point which is very important, is that the U.S. and the American administration is now is not really clear about what they should do about several issues with their partners in Europe. For example, what they're going to do about Turkey. Both of them are in NATO, US and Europe, but they don't know how to deal with this huge partner in NATO. It's a very cold relationship between Turkey and the West and the United States, but they have to deal with them. The Arab-Israeli conflict, no one knows how the US administration, the Biden administration will deal with it. Iran, no one knows there would be a deal or no. So now Europe is trying to figure out how they will deal with all these issues. You have, from a side, transatlantic, the US is not stable about its vision. The Brexit, England is not in, the UK is not member anymore, working with them. The COVID-19 pandemic, the refugees, and now the gas. We all know we're heading to winter, and President Putin is saying, well, it's very cold here, as he said it, and the prices are high. So we are now that our friends in Europe need to work with a reliable partner. This reliable partner is Egypt. Unfortunately, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is an honest leader with them. He never blackmailed them. He told them accurately what will happen. And he was very clear that we would not step 1 inch neglecting our security, our sovereignty, and our rights in the waters, in the Nile River.
Yes. Well, one other issue that was discussed in that meeting was the regional crises, namely what's happening in Libya, Syria, Yemen, also talking about the Middle East peace process as a whole. Now, when we focus on situations in Libya who are due to have their own presidential and parliamentary elections on December 24th, and talking about Syria as well. Now, we've seen many international players involved in these crises, and we've seen countries such as Russia, France, Italy, Germany. They all want to, they had a part and a role to play within these crises. But now things are starting to look like there is a way out if everything goes according to plan, if no divisions re-emerge. But the European Council, as an institution, how effective can it be in dealing with these issues if we already have big European powers, such as, I mean, acting individually? How can the European Council be of great help and influence in ensuring that these regional crises find a way out peacefully?
Well, it's a very interesting question, because we all know that Europe has these fears about anyone dealing with Russia. And they feel that they always threatened without the backing of the US, and the US is not backing really as they are doing. And let's not forget also that Russia is not alone this time. It has allies like China, and allies like North Korea, and allies like Iran, but China is the main monster for them. So your question, it's in the target, because we are seeing that they have a problem, they want a solution. So I think that one of the things that's interesting in the relationship with Egypt, that Egypt is having excellent relations with Moscow. And President Sisi is getting very along with his Russian counterpart, President Vladimir Putin. And I'm saying that maintaining stability in some regions, especially in Libya, needs strong leaders like President Putin and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. We all know that there will be the elections, as they said, in December 24th. There is some candidates like Saif al-Islam al-Qaddafi, and there is Marshal Khalifa Haftar. We all know that the Russians are tending for Saif al-Islam. We do not see an obstacle for Marshal Khalifa Haftar to be president. So I think that the negotiations between both leaders is very important now, and this shows how this issue about Libya now is in the hands of two powers, Egypt and Russia. Europe is interested in this because Egypt is the main the main point in this triangle.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the European Council also has a big role to play with its relationship to Egypt. There have been discussions regarding a new agreement to be signed, prioritizing cooperation between both sides between 2021 and 2027, amounting to 500 million euros. That's €500 million in cooperation. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.